Hi, students. Here we are, part C on our journey of America's music. Again, go over and enable the content, if you will, so that way you can open up the videos and see for yourself the different artists and the different genres. All right, we are into rhythm and blues. Okay, and rhythm and blues or R&B, it's a term again for several different types of, especially African American music after World War II, as well as some white music that was derived from it, and so on. And it came about when they used to call this music race music. Remember, I told you before in the last video that Black artists, their records were only sold to a Black audience for quite a long time, for like 30 years. Anyway, so a long time. So this is going to open the door wide open. All right. So the term rhythm and blues was used for a couple of years before you actually saw it in print, and then you'd see it on the Billboard charts and magazines and those types of things. All right. And so these kind of groups they had larger groups and smaller groups, and then they had individual artists as well. So some of the earlier names: Ray Charles, the Drifters, BB King, and so on. They did some really, um, gosh, music that influenced so many people. One thing about R&B is that the early recordings were done in like downtown areas of our big cities like LA, Chicago, Cincinnati, Houston, and even Sun Records in Memphis. And I wanted to take a moment just to tell you, if you get a chance to go to Tennessee, maybe you want to go to Nashville and hang out and so on, which is awesome, great music, especially country music, then make a trip over to Memphis. It's only about 2 hours to the west, and you'll be glad you did. It's such an interesting place, so filled with history of music and all of that. So, and also take a tour of the city, and they have the most fun on their tours. I know it sounds like an old person thing, but they make them really fun. You climb on a bus, but your leader is a musician who gets on the bus with their guitar, and they sit and face you on the bus, and they talk to you and tell you stories and talk to you all about the places you're going to, stories of the artist, stories of different gatherings, of how they mixed it up and so on. And then they play you songs along the way, and it is the most fun. So do it. You'll love it. You'll thank me later. All right. So we talked about rock and roll last time too, and there really are no hard and fast rules between rock and roll and rhythm and blues. But they were aimed at different age groups. For instance, rock and roll was aimed more towards teenagers. Teenagers had more spending money, right? They either had influence on their parents if their parents had disposable income, or teenagers oftentimes worked part-time and went to school and they had money to spend. And that's what rock and roll looked for, to sell those albums. All right, now R&B was maybe for a little bit older audience. All right, so some of the early ones, like I said here, and you can listen to each one and hear the differences and all that, and then think about what songs today do you hear that are kind of driven by this early rhythm and blues. Also, R&B attained a new meaning when the British bands came over after the Beatles, especially Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones play a mixture of Chicago blues and black rock and roll. Oftentimes put them in rock and roll, but if you listen, well, maybe they fit into both. Let's just say that way. A lot of artists take things that they learn from one genre and take it to the next, okay, and start blending things. And the group The Who, they also claim that they performed maximum R&B. I'm not even sure what that means. All right, so then I put these videos on for you to look at, to listen to watch. Sam Cooke was probably the earliest on this group. And then we moved to Etta James, most beautiful voice, so pretty, and just classic R&B. Then you get to Aretha again, amazing. Aretha carried a message, a strong message about civil rights and the unjust things going on. So listen that way as well. When you listen to Lionel Richie, he reminds me of a party that's waiting to happen. So I think you'll enjoy that. It's just fun. He's very talented, of course, but it's just a fun song. Michael Jackson, you probably know all of his songs way better than I do. But honestly, he's You have to have him right there for sure. Same with Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, in my mind, she has the best voice of anybody. And and this is a beautiful song. You'll love it. All right, so take some time and listen to those, right? Then let's move into country music. Now, country music, the main components here, they go back to the traditions back in the South, like old timey music, hillbilly music, those kinds of names for things, even Appalachian music, had a lot of different names to begin with. Now, honestly, if you lived there in that area and it was your music, you could call it hillbilly music. But as an outsider, if I called it hillbilly music, they see that as a put down. So make sure you don't get yourself in trouble that way. Okay, it's country music's fine, or mountain music. All right. So they brought different instruments into it as folk instruments and so on, and a lot of guitar, a lot of other stringed instruments, and so on. Then, as the country expanded westward, we took on different influences. So, in the Southwest, we have cowboy music, and that's going to enter in. Up in the Rockies, we have a more mountain music, and maybe some that's even influenced by Native Americans, and so on. So, that gets sort of combined. When you look at where the birthplace of country's music, America's country music, it, they have said, is in Bristol, Tennessee, which is very close to Nashville. So again, when you go to Nashville, go to Bristol and you'll see the Country Music Museum. Okay. All right. So you're going to start here with Jimmie Rodgers. He's considered the father of country music. Okay. So this is really a long time ago. It's just this awesome folksy clip you'll like. I mean, you may not like the music, but you'll, appreciate it. Then of course, Johnny Cash. Um, when we were on that bus tour in Memphis, they showed us the very first place that Johnny Cash played as part of a concert. And when he was introduced, he walked up and he simply said, "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash," in his low voice. And people just fell in love with him right then. And he's used that in every concert ever since. And then what is country music without Willie Nelson? And this is one of my very favorite songs of Willie. So enjoy that. And let's move forward. Dang. You guys, that is my dog. I think I told you in the last video clip, he's a golden retriever. He just goes nuts when somebody drives by. Anyways, all right. So in 1927, the Grand Ole Opry came into being, but for 2 years before that, it was called the WSM Barn Dance, which featured the best names in country music. Okay, and everybody aspired to be able to play at the Grand Ole Opry. And when you are asked to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry, that's like the crowning glory of you have made it. You've really made it in country music. You've really made it. There's nothing higher than that. They asked Carrie Underwood in her career, and she was won, I think, American Idol or one of those shows. She's grown tremendously in popularity, and she's got an amazing voice and presence. Beautiful woman. She's known all over the world and all of that. But when they asked her, "What's your biggest moment in your professional life? What's the biggest moment you can remember?" And she said, "Oh, hands down, it's becoming a member of the Grand Ole Opry." Right. So, anyways, I put on some classics. We've got Dolly Parton over here. She's one of my favorite, not just a favorite musician, one of my favorite people, because she is one of the most generous people you'll ever know. Um, just recently, she put up $1 million to help with creating our vaccinations to get done with this pandemic. Yay. She also created what's called, I think it's the Imaginarium, something like that. Imagine, I don't know what it's called exactly. Imaginarium. Anyways, what it does is it sends out books every single month to every child in her region up until a certain age, like 8 years old or 10 years old or whatever. Now, in her area where she grew up, she was poor, dirt poor, and there are a lot of people that are poor in the Appalachian region. And so imagine if you're a parent in that and you are struggling to put food on the table, and a brand new book comes in the mail every month for your children. How exciting that is. What a gift. Anyways, she's just an amazing woman. Love her. Garth Brooks, he's one of my very favorites, and he is the favorite of all the concerts I've been to. And I've probably been to 100 concerts at least. And interesting enough, it was in Las Vegas, which I wouldn't consider like the best place to go to a concert, but it was excellent because the room was small, it was intimate. They're on the stage, which was very close. He had a stool, his guitar, and a microphone, and that's it. The rest was just him, and it was awesome. He told stories, and he told the story of his life through music and who influenced him and this and that. It was great fun. And it reminds me of the assignment that you're going to be doing at the end of this. All right. And then I put on Brooks and Dunn, one of my favorite groups. So enjoy country music. So I'm stopping at country music because now there's just too many genres out there right now. I don't even know how to classify things anymore. So I'm leaving that up to you. Whatever kind of music you like, maybe it falls into a genre that either I'm not familiar with or I would call something else. So anyway, so I'm leaving that to you. But what you're going to do is, out of all the millions of songs you have listened to in your lifetime, and I know you're about 20 years old or 22 or whatever, but you've still listened to songs all of your life. I mean, when you're in the car, when you're at home, or what your parents played when you were little, what your sister and brother played who are a little older than you or younger than you, or whatever it is. You've been influenced by music your whole life. So if you have to narrow it down to 10 or 12 songs to tell your story, what would they be? So think back to when you were a young child. What did your parents play around the house? Maybe they had their favorite music and played it all the time when they were doing whatever, dishes or cleaning up or whatever. Maybe it was when you were a little kid and you were watching a TV show that you loved, and the TV shows all have theme songs to them and stuff. Or maybe playing video games, that has music to it. Okay, so choose when you were little, choose when you were like in elementary school, choose like when you were in junior high or hanging out with your friends, choose in high school and so on. And choose what you like right now. Okay. And why do you like it? Now, it's the whys that are important to me too. So when you type up your paper, and I'll give you an assignment that will tell you exactly what to do. But when you are listing the songs and listing the artist who sings it or the band or whatever, then you're going to give me a paragraph on why that song made it to your soundtrack. Out of all the songs you've listened to, why did that one make it? Okay, you got to give me a good paragraph. Now, there's going to be some other questions on your paper that are more geographic, like, say, for instance, you choose a band that's one of your favorites and you research them. Who were their influences? Where were they from? Where did your band members grow up? Where did they, who influenced them? Okay, so there'll be other questions like that that are more geographic. There's also a question that has to do with, pick one of your songs that talks about a particular place. What would that be, and so on. So anyways, that'll be on your assignment sheet. Also, at the end of this, I want you to realize this isn't the only story of America's music. It's just my version, okay? You may have other choices that you would put, or other genres you'd represent, or put them in a different way. Would you take him out with you? Anyways, all right, so what I want you to realize, though, is whether the music came from a back porch in West Virginia, a house party in Chicago, Mississippi juke joint, at a bluegrass festival in the Bayou, Louisiana, or in a Black Baptist church in North Carolina, this music has enlightened us, informed us, it's touched us, and defined us. We respect it, and maybe we even cherish it, just like we do the stories that are passed down from generation to generation. We listen to it, we take up a sort of pride in its history and diversity, we allow it to enter our soul and become an indispensable part of us. The music matters, and America's musical journey is one worth traveling. All right, students, I'll see you soon. Take care.